Hello, hello! Welcome to week 2 of Chaostober. If you have no idea what Chaostober is, I'm going to recommend you pause here and go watch 2 videos before you come back. The first one is my Chaostober TBR, where I explain exactly what Chaostober is and what my goals are for the month. And the second one is the week 1 vlog, so you can know what I've done so far this month. Chaostober is a readathon reading event. It's kind of a choose your own adventure kind of thing, hosted by Danielle at Danielle Reads. She's awesome, and I'm very excited to be taking part in this really fun challenge for the month of October. My goal is to finish my reading goals 2 months early. I have a set of reading goals that is stretching from January to December for the whole of 2025. And I've been working tirelessly at them for the entire year, and I'm ready to just knock them out of the park, and I'm ready to have some free reading time at the end of the year. Last week, I chose my books based on a spinner wheel. I would spin the wheel with all the goals on it, and then I'd have to pick a book that fit that goal. And I was able to read 2.5 books. I have 1 book lingering from last week, and that is Flesh and Spirit. I am 40 pages from the end. I'm so close, but I am headed to work. So I'm going to take this with me today, and I need to pick a new book to bring along because I'll probably finish this one. I'm only going to be gone a few hours, but if I get some quiet time where the kid is watching TV, I'm going to be reading. I'm going to introduce you to the new way that we are picking books, and then I'll actually tell you about this book once I'm done with it, what I think of it, because I have thoughts. So this week, we are doing a special Chaostober TBR jar. So I have my jar here with my lovely orange strips of paper to match my pumpkins. This is all the fall decoration I have in my entire house is on this bookshelf, and I love my little pumpkins. So these are all the books left on my Chaostober TBR. There's quite a few of them because I still have a lot I need to get to. And what I'm going to be doing is just picking one of these slips out and reading it. Now, I'm a little nervous at what might come out because there are some books I'm really excited to read, and there are some books that I'm really not sure how I'm going to feel about them. So this feels high stakes, even though I picked out this TBR. I want to say there's like 23-ish books on here, so we definitely have a lot of options that we could end up with. Let us pick and see what the first one's going to be. Okay. I'm so nervous because there are like easier books and harder books. I've definitely been hitting the like epic fantasy pretty hard. So I kind of like a different genre, but I'm also okay doing epic fantasy because I'm liking it lately. There's so many different things I could get on there, from like contemporary women's fiction to sci-fi to epic fantasy to classics. Like, there's so many options. So here's what we have. Hopefully that's right side up. Ooh, okay, this is exciting. Let me go grab this. Hello, Editing Cheyenne here. For some reason, the last part of that clip got corrupted, so just wanted to summarize what I actually said in that last part. I was very excited to read Till We Have Faces. It is a myth retelling of Cupid and Psyche, written by C.S. Lewis. And I was also really enjoying Flesh and Spirit, and was looking forward to sharing my thoughts when I was done. All in all, feeling very positive. Now back to Cheyenne in the past. I'm back with a little update. So, I have finished Flesh and Spirit, and I started on Till We Have Faces. So let's talk about these books. So, Flesh and Spirit was very, very good. I am landing on a 4 stars for this. So this book is about a man named Balin who is caught in an attack. At the beginning of the book, we find that he is in possession of a book that is very important and valuable, which we find out kind of later on that there's some sort of like map magic. Valen, our main character, gets taken in by a monastery and sort of sets on a path to become a monk. But he's not doing it because he wants to be a monk. He's kind of in hiding. And the story just develops and gets more deep from there. There's political intrigue in this, which was really interesting. There's a lot of fun magic, some dark academia vibes a little bit with the monastery, and then some of this like map magic. I will say that I wished some of the world building had been a little more explicit. Like, I didn't want info dumping, but I did feel like the characters would be talking about something even when I didn't have context for it. And so I'm trying to like piece together some lore and politics and figuring out who's who and what's what. But with the exception of a little slowdown in the middle, the last part of this book, there were some points where like I could not put it down. I was like needing to go to sleep and I was reading in bed on the ebook like, okay, but like I really just need to figure out what's going to happen in this part, which I really enjoyed. I don't often get that feeling from books, like that feeling where you're just being swept up in it and you just can't get enough of it. You don't want to put it down. You have to figure out what's going to happen in that moment. And I really got that from this one. This is the first book in a duology. I've pulled the sequel out and put it on my stack of sequels I need to read because I definitely want to finish this off this year, either in November or December, because it's just really interesting. I'm really invested in our main character. One of the things I appreciated most about this was character growth and just kind of following our character, learning more about who he was, and seeing him go on this journey that really challenges him, takes him to some dark places, and I think the ending, he was in a really interesting place, and I'm excited to see, like, can he sort of become the hero we need in this book? Because at the beginning, he's on the run a lot. He tends to run from his problems rather than face them. And I think in this book, he's going to be trying to face them. So later in the year, hopefully I will get to that before it's kind of lost what happened in this book. So I really want to read it maybe next month. But then our first TBR Jar pick was Till We Have Faces, which is one of my classics by C.S. Lewis. I have read 50 pages. As I thought before, just based on how big the words are on the page, this is not taking me very long. I read that in 2 quick settings, a little bit before bed last night and a little bit this morning. I am going to be sitting down some and pacing some because I need to get some steps in, and working on this today. I would really like to get at least halfway, but maybe further if it got going really well. This has a very fairy tale-like writing style. It's very simple yet beautiful. We're following this king who has 3 daughters. One of them is Psyche, and the other 2, Psyche is the youngest by far, and she's very beautiful. And the older sisters like aren't very beautiful, and they're sort of put in charge of Psyche and like taking care of her and stuff. And as Psyche grows up, the people of the land start to really latch onto her as maybe something more than she is. So there was like an illness that swept through the town. Word kind of got like twisted and shaped and spread from ear to ear that Psyche could heal the illness with a touch. And women who were pregnant would ask Psyche to kiss their belly so that their child would come out as beautiful as she is. And it's sort of like people are starting to almost worship her like a goddess. And the sisters in this book, particularly the main sister whose head that we're in the most, we are seeing from her that she's very afraid that the real gods and goddesses in the story are going to get jealous, and that the priest himself of those gods and goddesses is going to turn the town against her. And that's kind of like very briefly, like there's other stuff in here, but that's kind of where we're at. As I said before, I have not read the Cupid and Psyche myth, so I don't know what is or isn't true to the story. I decided to just read this, and then I'll go back and read the myth after. So I'm just vibing with this. I'm finding it very readable. I really enjoy C.S. Lewis's writing. There is a lot about beauty and ugliness, and I'm just excited to see like where that goes, to see if it has a deeper meaning or if it's just kind of that classic fairy tale beauty and ugliness. Though already we kind of have like the ugly sister is very kind and caring and wants to care for her family in a way that maybe the other older sister and her dad, the king, are much more harsh. And so we are getting some like interesting kind of fairy tale tropes maybe being turned on their head. I don't know. But I'm just having a good time with this. It feels very fairy tale like. It feels very different from like the epic fantasy I've been reading, which has been really good. So I'm going to be working on that for today. But I'm hoping tomorrow that we'll be able to pick another book from the jar and kind of add another book onto our checked off pile after this. This is a classic. It's the only goal that it works for, so we got to keep moving. We're just checking off books and slowly making progress on these reading goals to hopefully finish as many as we can before the end of the month. And tonight, my husband and I are joining some coworkers for Korean barbecue, which I'm very excited about. It's a kind where you like grill it at the table and you get all you can eat for 2 hours, basically. They pace you a little bit by how much like meat they bring you, but we're so excited. We've heard this place that we're going to go to is like even better than ones we've been to before, and we love Korean barbecue that we went to before, so we're very excited to go do that. So I'm just going to be reading and drinking some coffee and getting ready to go to dinner. One more book on the stack, and a chunky one at that. We're making great progress.
Cool. Yeah, some of those will be nice.
Hello, it's a pajama update. I am freshly showered and ready to sit down and read for the night, so I need to update you on my progress. I finished Till We Have Faces today. I worked really hard to finish this. I read definitely like 2/3 of it at least. What did I think about this? I think I'm landing on a 3-star, maybe lower, but I think 3 stars feels fair. So I really liked the opening third of this book. I thought it was really compelling. It felt written like kind of a fairy tale. It was going very quickly. I feel like I was, tracking with the story. And then we hit the middle third and things started to get off track. There was a lot of like political stuff that felt very out of left field. Within that middle third, our main character who we're following started to change a lot in a way that was very interesting. But I didn't feel like we ever got to really like slow down and think about it. It was still moving quite quickly through like a lot of political stuff and a lot of time. And then the last third had this like pickup and then way downhill. So there's a part 1 and a part 2 in this book. And part 1 was following the story of Psyche's sister, whose name is Arul, and she's the sister that's like really ugly, and Psyche is like very beautiful. And I'm not going to go into the whole details of the story. But Psyche's story is very much in the background, where we're really studying Orul as a character in this story. That's who our main focus is. And then Psyche's story is happening sort of in the background of this, and then kind of comes together all at the end. So the first part is kind of following Orul as she is living life. It's a very like brutal kind of life, and she's expressing a lot of frustration with the gods, and that goes through part 1. It's kind of considered her complaint against the gods, and that is talked about in part 2, which is roughly the last like 40 to 50 pages is the final part. And that part really bothered me, that last few sections, because basically it was like our character feels this way. The last section was all just like a bunch of dreams that were changing our character's mind about things in a way that narratively didn't make sense. C.S. Lewis is a Christian apologist. He spent a lot of his writing time writing to sort of convince people that Christianity was right. And I feel like this was an apologist's allegory more than it was a narrative itself. Because the narrative part of the story was happening here, and then it was like, wait, we need to switch, and I need to sort of like preach to you the like Christian part of this, like wrap it all up, explain like the gospel message, which, you know, it's like, I'm a Christian, I agree with the message that's being said here. I didn't have a lot of complaints with the message itself, but as a narrative, it failed really badly, because it was like, we've spent this whole time in this character's head, and then you're just going to send a bunch of dreams that like changes her mind about everything, instead of like letting her do something that changes her mind, or having something happen in the narrative. It was just a bunch of dreams, which was really frustrating. So while there were bits of this that I really enjoyed, like the fleshing out of Orul's character, that just annoyed me so much. There were also some things about like slavery, because this is someone who is living in the 40s writing about Greek and Roman times, and so there was a lot of slavery in there, and the things that were written about slavery were very dated. A lot of the stuff about women was focused on like beauty and childbirth and virginity and all of that stuff. That's like very wrapped up in C.S. Lewis. That's kind of like a theme, kind of like Tolkien too. There's like a lot of stuff in their books about women being like one specific way, and there's not much wiggle room for them in their stories. So this was a bit of a disappointment. I had hoped I would love this like I loved The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and it just fell a little flat for me. I'm glad I read it, but it's not a story I'm going to hold very near and dear to my heart. So we will be passing that book on. I don't think I'm ever going to reread it. And we get to pick another book, and then I can settle in and read for a couple hours before bed. So here we go. Still very many to choose from, but we are making pretty good progress. Okay, here we go. I'm going to show you first. Let's see. Oh, okay. Okay, Sword of Shannara. Let me go grab it, and then we'll talk about it very briefly. Sword of Shannara. I had originally put this on this Chaostober TBR because I think it might be an easy DNF, and I wanted to put like a couple of those that I really wasn't sure about on this TBR to like make sure I'm reading them, giving them a try. This is 700 pages, so we're starting a new series, we're starting a big book, but I have heard that this is like someone basically copying The Lord of the Rings. Now, I haven't read The Lord of the Rings in a really long time, so it's possible I will just enjoy being in a story that's like The Lord of the Rings, or it's going to be too close to The Lord of the Rings and it's going to really bother me and I'm going to want to put it down. I think that some people who I've heard talk about this book, I think it's going to be more of the latter, that I'm just not going to be that invested in this and we'll put it down. So I'm going to give it a good college try. We'll just read it. If I don't like it, I'll be back tonight with another poll. If I do like it, I will continue reading it for now. I do have it on audiobook as well, so I can make use of that a little bit for a really long book. So that will definitely help. I don't really know a lot about what this is about exactly, but I think I'm just going to go into it kind of blind, knowing that it's very similar to Lord of the Rings. What more do you need to know? You know, I know the story of the Lord of the Rings. So I'm going to go read for a little bit, and then if we're changing books very quickly, I'll be back very quickly. Okay, I'm back. This is going to be a DNF. I read about 15 pages, and then I read some reviews on Storygraph just to see what exactly people had the biggest problems with this story. And I just think this isn't going to be for me. I did not get along very well with the writing style. There were some parts where it was interesting, but there was like a ton of description that didn't matter. Like, you'd be going up to the inn and it's like, oh, they see at the inn that there's a porch and there's 2 wings and this wing has lights on. That's where the dining room is. This wing doesn't have any lights on. That's where the sleeping quarters is. These are what the logs look like that built the inn. And it's like, okay, we don't need to know this much info. And it's just very wordy in that way. I feel like Terry Brooks was telling us one thing about one of the characters, and then the character was not doing that thing. He was like saying he was very like closed-mouthed, but then he was also like having conversations with people in a way that didn't make sense to me. Overall, just not, I think, going to be the thing for me. I don't think I've been learning this year that, like, I don't think I love older epic fantasy as much as I thought I did. I think definitely, like, most of the time I'm going to like 90s and newer, maybe. I'm just learning my own taste with it, so I'm definitely glad I gave it a try just to, like, confirm that I don't think this will be for me, and I feel okay getting it off my shelves. I wasn't, like, really needing to, read this to feel good about myself or anything. Like, I just wanted to try it. So this one and its sequel will be leaving my shelves. I will gift them to someone who will hopefully enjoy them. And that means we're on to choice number 3 from the jar. All right, I will show it to you first. Oh, ooh, dropped it. Hopefully you can see that. Perdido Street Station. Okay, this is nice because it's newer. Let me go grab it. So I own the mass market paperback of this one, but I did get a big copy from the library, which I think I'll be reading because I've been doing a lot of reading today and I feel my carpal tunnel starting to act up. So reading a small mass market paperback is going to exacerbate it. So having like a big version that can just flop open is going to be a lot better on my wrists. So this, I don't know anything really about the plot of this. I just know it's a weird fantasy about like a story called New Crobazon that has bugs, and it's maybe like dark, and maybe this is kind of like a political book. I don't really know a lot about it, but I have had this on my TBR for so long, and I think I might love it. I'm not sure, but I'm going to hope that I love it. I do own the entire trilogy, so if this feels fantasy, I could try to read the whole trilogy to fulfill my goal of reading a big fantasy series. This could be an option. I'm pretty sure I'm going to make it farther in this one than 14 pages because I just think hopefully the writing style will be better for me and hopefully I'll enjoy it. Let's go put our other books on the stack of books that will be leaving my collection, and then I'm going to settle in and read this version. Okay, let's get this one and these. There's a lot of pages that I'm getting rid of. Now, remember that I haven't read this one, this one, this one, this one, or this one. I've only read these two and this one all the way through. Oh, and this one, I read it a couple months ago. So, I haven't read all those, but they will be leaving my shelves. We've basically almost cleared an entire shelf so far, which is pretty awesome. I was doing a big clear out of my TBR jar, just kind of getting things up to date on what I've read, and I was looking at like all of these books I've read since, I don't know the last time that I did this clear out. Maybe it was towards the beginning of the year, maybe the end of last year, so like about a year or 9 months worth of reading, and like these are all the ones that have left my shelves or that I'm currently reading and will be leaving my shelves, and that was just very exciting. We still have a lot to go, obviously, but like this used to be like full, and now we're getting close to like the halfway point, which is just, it feels so good. And for those of you that have been following my Taming the Shelves and all my reading goals, this has been one of my big things, is just reading the books from my shelves, and it's nice to see both my shelves and the TBR jar emptying a bit. Saturday evening. It's about 7:40. I have to fold some laundry, but I wanted to tell you my very brief thoughts about Perdido Street Station and how it's going so far. So it's definitely weird, and like weird doesn't even feel like it describes it. Like it's surreal. So we opened the book with like a prologue about someone entering the city of New Crobuzon, and it's very, very descriptive, but in a beautiful way. So when I was reading Sword of Shannara, it felt very descriptive, just to describe every single thing and how it looked. Whereas this one, it feels like it's trying to evoke a feeling, it's trying to make me think a certain way about the city, it's trying to set the tone for the book, and I thought I did a very good job of that, even though it was very hard to tell like exactly what was happening in it. It was a little bit like high concept. So then we get our opening chapter and we're introduced to a couple. This couple is comprised of a human, and then I do not remember the word for what they're called, but they are essentially a human body, but they have red skin, and they have a bug head. So, like, they literally have, like, from what I'm picturing, it's like a scarab beetle head and then, like, a mouth on top. They speak to each other in sign language because she can't talk. And the characters seem very morally gray, just based on how they're talking to one another and some of the things that it's mentioned. And then they kind of go along on their way after we meet them. So I really liked that, like, China Mieville's taking the time to situate us with characters because the story is so weird. The city is so strange. And there is, like, so much to try to take in that we need to connect to characters to have anything to hang on to. Because then it starts, like, talking about a bunch of crazy things with the main character, man. His name is Isaac. And he, like, works in, like, research and experiments. And, like, he goes and visits this, like, person that's like a big ball that lives in a little tub of water, and he has like frog legs and hands, and he's just like big and round and literally just has like a human face on part of its body, and he like creates this little water person, gives it to Isaac, and then Isaac takes it and goes and experiments on it. Like, bizarre stuff is happening. But I'm intrigued. I am a little worried about just how much terminology there is. I'm having a hard time, like, connecting the terminology to something tangible. So, like, it'll mention a word and I'm like, I don't know really what that is. So I hope I don't have to know what it is. Or I'm, like, forgetting what it is if we've been told it before. That's definitely the thing I'm most worried about, but I'm just gonna, like, hang in there. If I need to, I will add in a second book and just read a little bit of Perdido Street Station every day. Overall, I would say I'm feeling positive about it. It feels different. It feels interesting. Oh, one thing I will say is it's very gross. Like, I was trying to eat dinner and read it on my phone, and I was like, this is not a good idea. It's very gross. There's some almost like body horror things involved with it, so I wouldn't recommend eating and reading this book at the same time. I think that's all I kind of want to tell you about it so far. I'm gonna take it as my main read tomorrow and see how I get along with it. Now that I say that, I'm like, should I take a backup in case I get to a point where I'm overwhelmed and I don't want that to be the only book I have with me that day while I'm working? Maybe that's a good idea. Should we do an impromptu pull from the jar just in case we need a backup? That might be a good idea. I'm gonna go grab the jar. Really impromptu pull. We're not even in front of the shelf or anything. We're gonna pull an emergency book just in case we need it tomorrow. But I'm gonna keep Perdido Street Station as my main book. I'm not gonna be able to get all the way over there to show you without like shaking the camera. So I'm just gonna read it and you'll have to believe me. I got Crystal Cave by Mary Stewart. I love this old retro-y cover for it. It's very cool. I like it. I have the sequel in this version as well. So this is a King Arthur retelling, and I'm not a huge fan of King Arthur retellings, but I've heard that this is very good. I'm interested in Mary Stewart as an author. This is the start of a series. There are 4 books in the series. So I would definitely like to know if it's a series I would be interested in the long run. I've heard it's kind of like one of those must-read King Arthur retellings. So if I'm going to like one, I feel like it should be this one. it's going to be something very different from Perdido Street Station in case I don't like that one. This will work. So that's all I have for you tonight. Impromptu TBR jar pull. And we have 2 more days, Monday and Tuesday, before we close out this version of the vlog. So I'm going to try to read as much as I can Monday, Tuesday, and a little bit tonight as well. I'm here to wrap up week 2 and get us going on week 3 tomorrow. I'm filming this on Tuesday at about 4:30 p.m. So I am going to read a tiny bit, but I'm nowhere close to finishing a book. So that's not going to affect much. And I wanted to be able to edit this and get it posted fairly quickly just because I'm busy with some special reading plans the next couple days. So I have been working on Perdido Street Station. I did not need to open the Crystal Cave at all because I am falling in love with this book. I'm loving it so much. I've made it to part 3, which is 200 pages in, almost a third of the way through, but not quite. This is a 700-page book, and I'm like 220 pages in. This book is extremely weird. It is set in this city called New Crobuzon in this world that is called Bazlag. And this is following, so far, our couple, Isaac and Lynn. Isaac is a human. Lynn is like she's called a Kepri. And she has like a human body with red skin and then like a scarab bug head. But it's like a full bug. It's not just a bug head on her body. Like there's a bug, like she can like spread her like shell apart and like she has wings on her head and stuff. So we're following our 2 couples as they go about their things. Isaac is approached by a creature called a Garuda, who, I forget what their body looks like. There's a lot of weird creatures in here, so I don't remember all the combinations of what everyone is. But he used to be able to fly, but for whatever reason, his wings were like cut off of him. And he wants Isaac to figure out a way to help him be able to fly again. So that's his story that we're following. And then Lynn is an artist. There's this really weird art form where like she chews berries in her like bug head mouth and then like poops out this like spit that she then molds to make art. It's very weird and very strange. This book is extremely strange. And she is commissioned by a person whose appearance is extremely strange to make a life-size statue of him. For what reason, she doesn't know, but this guy is willing to pay very well. He's a little sketchy and scary, but it's intriguing, so she decides to do it. There is a third perspective that I just got recently of one of Lynn and Isaac's friends who like runs like an underground newspaper that's kind of like Rage Against the Machine, against the government, which we kind of have been gathering is very corrupt. We don't really know how yet, but a lot of people are living in poverty, including Isaac and Lynn. It's a very dark, dank part of the city that we're in. I don't know if there's a part of the city that isn't poverty stricken because we just don't know about the whole thing yet. There's like a very detailed map at the beginning of the story. So there's like a lot of stuff going on in here. There's like tons of different places mentioned, and like a lot of them our characters have been going to, and it'll be like, oh, they see this on the way to here, and they take this train line here, and, you know, all these things. So it's very in-depth. It feels like China Miéville has really planned out this world really well. Like, there's just so much going on in this book. and the writing is so good. Like, just the prose, it's very evocative. Like I was telling you before, I was reading part of it while I was trying to eat, and it was like making me feel sick because it was very evocative. I will say that this is very dark, so like there's quite a few unpleasant topics that have been happening in here. Like there was this one like carnival that had like some very not well treated creatures in the carnival to like scare people, and it was very sad. Like there was this creature that has like a snake mouth, and like its fangs were like completely ripped out, and so like the snake was like trying to show off its fangs to scare people away because it's very sad and scared, and like it couldn't because those had been ripped away, and things like that are like hard to read and sad. But I also feel like he doesn't linger on it so long that it gets to be too much. He just kind of makes the point and then moves on, and it doesn't seem to be there just for shock value, and the way the characters respond to it is often very interesting. And something that I really am finding interesting about this read is at the beginning of the book, he mentions, China Mieville mentions loving Mervyn Peake's books. Mervyn Peake wrote Gormenghast trilogy, and I tried to read the first in the series earlier this year and ended up DNFing it very close to the end just because the plot was moving so slow. And I see so much of Mervyn Peake's kind of writing in this, with like the weird characters, these kind of vignettes, this like sprawling and weird setting, and there's just so many different things that I'm like, yes, this reminds me of Mervyn Peake, but the plot feels stronger. I was worried that this was going to be a book that didn't have a plot, but it does, and the plot is moving and it's gripping. Like I would find myself being drawn in and wanting to keep reading. Today, I was setting a goal of reading 100 pages, and if I could have just sat and read this, I might have read like 200-300 pages today because I'm just not into it. And even though it's a little slow, the descriptions can be a little dense, very flowery, very descriptive, lots of like similes and metaphor and things like that. But it's so good. So hopefully the last 2/3 and then some won't like ruin it, because I'm loving it so much and I hope it's good when it like continues on. I have the other 2 books in the series on my shelves, and they're both quite chunky, but I could see myself diving into these and loving them just as much, because it's not just the characters that I'm liking, it's the city. He's writing so many interesting little moments that just make me want to keep reading. This little moment we have with this like secret print shop that's printing off this like scandalous newspaper was so interesting. Like China Mieville just knows how to write a gripping scene, and it just keeps happening over and over and over again, where I'm like, ooh, that was so interesting. I can't wait to find out more about that. Or this adds like a different view to the city, or something we didn't know before, and now it's kind of helping me classify information more. And I just feel like China Mieville is like creating this like spider web of little moments and little characters, and almost like butterfly effect, like this has happened so that this happens so that this happens, and I feel like it's going to come together really well in the end. And I totally so far understand why this book has gotten so much hype from the people who read it, because I found myself wanting to go buy everything he's written, whether it's in this world or not, because I'm just loving the writing. I think it's so interesting, so smart, so well written, and I just feel like I want to gush about it to everyone all the time right now. And then to wrap up Week 2, we had some very exciting book mail. If you watched my last video, my week 1, you'll know that I read Demon by Matt Wesolowski, which is the final book in the 6 stories series, which is a kind of true crime podcast, but it's all made up. It's a thriller slash kind of horror slash maybe supernatural kind of series that I've read over the past few years and absolutely loved. And I wanted to get his newest book that he wrote, I think in 2024 or 2023. And I wasn't expecting it to be this tiny, but it is Don't Call Mum by Matt Wesolowski. It's 110 pages, very small, and it says, he always comes for you. Leo is just trying to catch his train back home to the village of Mallockstone in northeast England, but there's disorder at the station, and when a loud young man heading for London boards the train accidentally, a usually easy journey descends into darkness and chaos. The train soon breaks down in the middle of nowhere, and as night falls, something or someone steps out of the distance. Is it a man or something far more sinister? And that is exactly what I loved about the 6 stories series, is that it was always like, is this something supernatural or is this just real life that's really scary? And we kind of hope there's something supernatural going on. So I'm just really excited to read this. It's gonna be interesting to read something from him that's not a podcast. And I hope that I will love it and that Matt Wesolowski will write more and that I will love all of his work and we'll just have a great time. He's definitely like one of my favorite authors and I'm so excited to like have this, and hopefully I will read it in like November or December, a little creepy book that I can just devour in a sitting or two. That wraps up week 2. Week 1, we chose our books by spinning the goals on a wheel. Week 2, we did our TBR jar. Week 3 has a brand new way of choosing books to read, so you'll have to stay tuned for my week 3 vlog. I would love to know if you love weird fiction or if you think reading about bug people would be a little bit too weird for you. I'm definitely a lover of weird fiction. Sometimes it's too weird, but this is just the kind of weird I love. And I want to know how you feel about weird fiction. Please let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!